Yeah, that's fine. Should I be hearing myself? This would be a little odd. But I will deal with it like a professional.
Oh, my fucking DI is not capturing audio. What the fuck, man? Alright, live.
You say we're live?
Yes.
What's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to Slam Sector. My name is Ryan. I'll be joined by my co-host here soon. And we're going to be watching this stream.
We gotta figure out audio stuff.
Having a little bit of technical difficulties. At least we have coffee. I hope that's not too loud when I drink that. I think we can hear.
Howdy, everybody.
I don't think it's on. But I could hear you through my mic.
Oh. Not nothing. What have they done so far? And to everyone tuning in, I apologize for the tactical redeployment.
He'll be given 100 lashes in Slanesh's Palace of Pain for his indulging and sleeping in.
Could be worse. Could be worse. Oh man, yeah, the time zone shift, huh? Hmm.
So it looks like they're talking about something.
Do you have audio?
I don't have audio. I don't want to throw anything else on Jordan's plate, but
Audio?
we can't hear the stream.
Can you hear yourselves?
We can hear ourselves, yeah.
I can hear. Yeah, I can hear both of us.
Yeah.
But not them.
Looked like he was talking about a miniature there. That gesture, you know.
Talking about that universal symbol of I painted something the other day.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff.
We need to get some Space Marine banners. That's what's missing from my life.
They're a little loyalist heavy, I will say,
Oh yeah,
but you know.
I like that Imperial Fist one.
You know, if I gotta go between the two, I'm still nothing. If I gotta go between the two, I'm gonna stick to the boys in blue, man.
Really? Ultramarines?
I don't know. The Imperial Fists, it's something about the race car yellow.
In second edition, that was a few years later. We didn't know what we were doing in first edition.
I had the first book I ever purchased was the Angels of Death Codex, which at the time I was like, this book looks great.
Yep.
I bought it. I didn't have the core rule book. I didn't know what any of the numbers meant.
Yep.
I just liked the artwork and read all the all the lore, and then that was kind of me, and I've had some
I-
flavour of Angels of Death Army ever since.
I love it. So, talking about that first edition, this is the seminal piece of artwork that was the cover of Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader, sometimes known now as first edition. If this was your edition that you jumped in on, let us know in the chat. I'm really curious to see if this is where you jumped on board. This was, of course, more like a role-playing game in some ways than the mass battle game that we're familiar with now, and included some properly mad rules, and that really set the sort of tone for that grim darkness of Warhammer 40,000 that we know and love today.
Obviously depicting a glorious victory by the forces of the Orcs over the contemptuous Crimson Fists.
I spent many hours looking at this picture when I was a little boy, so absolutely love it. Oh, everybody's chiming in.
Right in the nostalgia. Ooh.
Yeah, so... what else is there to say? Crimson Fist have been making flawed last stands ever since. Second edition heralded a bit of a step change, I think it's fair to say. For
yeah, I think I had all those books. I think the Eldar one particularly was incredible. I think I remember getting that book and absolutely absorbing all of the lore of the Avatar and the different aspects, and the art back then was so iconic that it still kind of resonates now, doesn't it?
It really does. So my codex for this era, the army I was playing with, was Orcs.
Great choice.
I had an extremely beardy, power gamey orc army. Nothing like the way I play nowadays, I promise. But it was awesome. And these codexes, they really sort of allowed just the writers and for the background, people like Jervis Johnson and Andy Chambers and Rick Priestley and so on, to really dive into the background of these forces and bring it to life. As you say, Angels of Death changed my life, and I get the impression it did yours too. Of course, it didn't stop there. This was the contents of that the first Warhammer 40,000 boxed game, I suppose. And I remember this landing and my little sort of group of Warhammer nerds at school being over the moon with how cool this was.
I don't think there's any piece of cardboard that has had more use in my life than the
Dreadnought.
Well, not the Dreadnought, the scenery. The Dreadnought certainly has been on a few battlefields, but the scenery, I think, stuck with me for about 20 years in my terrain collection from this. It's looking a bit ragged these days.
So I insisted on using my Flamer templates from this quite far into 3rd edition because I just thought they looked really cool with the fire on. If this was your edition, if you were a 2nd edition Warhammer 40,000 person, shout us out in the chat.
Look in the far right-hand corner there, you got the artillery dice and scatter dice as well. Good times.
Sustained fire dice, watching things blow up. Of course, 2nd edition was replaced as the movement of time comes along with 3rd edition, which was incredible. Massive fan of 3rd edition. Played a gajillion games. Introduced the Dark Eldar, Takari as we know them now, as a faction. And the Space Marines were a real step change.
Multi-part. That was the first really multi-part kit, wasn't it, for 40k, where you could do all sorts of cool and wonderful weird things with them. I had a huge Dark Eldar army at the time. I had a 9 Raider flying host of those Dark Eldar.
The chat is flying along. I'm sorry if I can't possibly keep pace with all your wonderful comments. There's more than 20,000 of you in there. Somebody in the chat said, is the cardboard dreadnought still a valid unit? If you wanted to play against me with it, I wouldn't say no, because it would be a hit in nostalgia, but I'm not sure how you'd fare at the tournament. It has no side profile, does it? Of course, loads of codexes, loads of new factions, and I'm old enough that I still think of all these as slightly new.
Yeah, these are the new guys, right? These are the new guys. They've only been around for 25 years now, something like that. Yeah.
So Dark Eldar, the Tau, the Necrons. The Necrons did get a little.
I had a metal model from a White Dwarf.
Yep. We played so many scenarios. We set up a big battlefield and we had an Imperial Gun army, move all the models around, and one of them was these guy, and the GM would move that, and eventually we revealed it as Necron. Anyway, if 3rd edition is your thing, I want a 3rd ed in the chat. Let us know if you are a 3rd edition sort of starter.
I loved the Tau when they came out. I was straight in on that army.
Changed the world. Changed the world. Loads and loads of 3rd ed in the chat. My goodness, this is great to see. And then this fella turned up, and it all got a bit feisty.
Yeah, there's some big fights. This was one of the first times that the story for 40k moved a bit, because up until this point it was always a setting really rather than a moving story. Some of this stuff has kind of rolled back a little bit and been reinterpreted, but fundamentally this was the war for Cadia, wasn't it?
It really was.
Yeah, remember that.
Wonderful.
Katie's doing alright these days. I haven't checked
roommate,
it out.
I'm sure it'll be fine. We've seen, of course, some serious revisions and range refreshes along the way. A lot of people herald this as the greatest.
So I think this is the best range re-release ever, basically, because the Dark Eldar, the Drakari were always like, they were quite cool. They were like the kind of space pirate vibe. But when this range came out and they had the new Raiders and the new Warriors and the new Witches and all the stuff, the peripheral stuff that came along with it, absolutely went from kind of, quite a cool army to pretty much the best looking army in 40k overnight. Such a cool.
I would agree.
Totally
And
agree.
the other one I'd put up there maybe would be the, for me,
their
the
range
Doomsday
refresh
Thoughts
was
reinvention of
incredible.
recent years.
Oh, I'd
It's a
overlooked them completely.
pretty sweet update.
I was going to make a strong argument for the Sisters of Battle, which kept the original design aesthetic completely,
Yep.
but just leapt it forward.
There's been some doozies, yeah.
But
And
the
of
Doomsday
course,
dropped
Kings of
from, like,
Votan's,
sixth
I
edition
thought
for
might be
some.
the winner.
6 or 7.
and then we had Knights.
was-
The
that was during
arrival of
my-
Knights and Super Heavies
my
generally
dark
was
age when I wasn't
massive.
playing.
The
40K.
scale of Warhammer 40,000 has increased, hasn't it, in time? And what I mean by that is, like, the number of cool big things. Back when I started, like, the little Orc Dreadnought that was maybe, I don't know, the length of my index finger,
Yep.
was, like, a big dominating thing on the tabletop, whereas now an Imperial Knight stands like a Goliath over your army, and it's amazing.
Yeah, and even
Yeah,
these
the
days, if
second
you've got
edition
one
box
Imperial
set, the
Knight,
Orc Dreadnought
I only
was
got
a
one
cardboard
Imperial Knight.
cutout.
It's all right. I can take out one.
I can't imagine them doing that
Incredible.
now.
Hey, it's still
Speaking
Games
of big
Workshop
guys,
I
legal.
think somebody just said, wait, these aren't in fourth edition. I
would
believe
love
we
to
have
see
jumped
that
through the
Orc
bounds of
Dreadnought.
time. So at this point, we are like firmly in
The Cicatrix
that-
Maledictum's really messed up the
that 7th
timeline.
to 8th category. So if you want to give me a 4th, 5th, or 6th edition shout out, fun fact, I helped write the How to Play guide for 4th edition. There you go.
wow.
That was the Battle of McCrag. Then it was the Black
So
Ridge
if-
set with the Orcs.
So if you
after
weren't very
that
good at
for 5th.
4th edition, that's Adam's fault for not teaching you.
But if you were great at 4th edition, then you're welcome.
Okay,
There you go.
no problem.
Definitely dodged.
Like that they're ripping each other.
There you go. Some people are giving. 4th failed at. Don't say it. Of course, we've seen some of the sort of the mega stars of Warhammer 40,000's iconic background return, and perhaps no more sort of key example of that would be the Peter Gilliman, Mortarion, and obviously the one who.
Yeah, and Magnus as well.
Who can never be forgiven.
Oh, I
Magnus the Red.
let him off. He's, we all make mistakes. So I think when Magnus returned, the first of the Primarchs, that really was like a step change.
How's
When
Mortarion
when
gonna
we went,
burn the
hang on a
galaxy
minute,
if
this
he can't get up on
isn't
time
just
to
like
make
messing
it to
around
the
with the
fight?
peripheries of
That's
the timeline.
that's the only time I'm going to review
The
about
movie-
it.
No, it's fine.
He's on Fenris.
I fully
Rebecca
accept it.
Gulliman
Hey,
returned,
man,
and the galaxy got
Mortarion
ripped
just
in
said he
half,
couldn't
and
get
Mortarion
that
came
one
back, and
lone
it's a pretty
whirlwind
exciting
that's
time
just
if you've been following
running off
the main
into the
timeline of
distance still
40k.
to this day.
That
Yeah,
whirlwind's
and
a
speaking
champion.
of that timeline, you're
That's
seeing
one way-
Warhammer
one way to look
40,000
at it.
move forward in a way that it now that it really has never
Oh, look at those
done
blight
in
drones.
my
Big
previous,
wreck.
I don't know, the first 27 years or
Mortarion
so
just
of my
gliding
experience
down.
with it. It was sort of static immovable, always placed at sort of 2 minutes to midnight, and now the clock is moving, and I'm not sure the Imperium's ever been in more danger. But also that spark of hope, thanks to the return
They've
of
had to
Gilliman.
do a lore
Maybe
drop
just a
on
little bit of hope.
No, they're still doing
I don't
it.
know. They're just talking about
The only thing to decide really is exactly how
Predicts
doomed they are.
Maledictum, or however you say
The
that.
reinvention to the
Predicts
Sisters Battle. This
Maledictum.
was a huge moment a few years ago when, after a
Easy,
fairly
this
long
is a family
hiatus,
stream.
Sisters Battle returned with much, including some brand new things we hadn't seen before, but also
Yep.
classics like Penitent Engines and Seraphim and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, that was
I mean,
crazy.
it's
They
just
redid
how-
that entire model line.
Oh, yeah.
The main
Like the
battle,
ground up, it was
Sisters
bonkers.
Battle
The new
Squad,
sisters look so good.
Yeah.
essentially exactly the same as it ever did, but also has evolved through all the techniques and
My favorite's like on the right
craft
there,
that is sort
the
of
flamer sister.
increased
That corpse she
in the
has,
same
Oh,
she's just like
yeah.
fresh roasted.
It's
It's just
the
the
same
Xenos
concept.
burning
I
as she's
really do.
stepping
I think they're
forward
an
on the
absolute piece of
combat.
art.
I think it's
I bought loads, and then
mutant.
I just that on my shelf.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like
I've got
Chaos
too many
guy.
Dark Angels to paint.
There you go.
One day.
Here we are. So this is talking about
Let
the
the
timeline
galaxy
of
burn.
Warhammer 40,000. Yeah, space map. This is that enormous great rip across the middle of the galaxy. There is the Cicatrix Maledictum, which is the Great Rift.
Cicatrix
That is
Maledictum.
the galaxy being torn in half by various calamities that happened across it. Everything from the events of Fenris all the way through to the fall of the Cadian Gate and other various disasters that have befallen it all the way along there. And at the moment in Warhammer 40,000, if you want to get from one side of the galaxy to the other, you have to go through basically demon-infested waters of that massive tear in reality, which is bleeding warp magic across the galaxy, basically.
Yeah, and just try not to be on the nihilist side if you can.
Yeah, if you're on the top,
Just try and be
if you're in the
lucky.
top bit, unless you happen to be in golden armor or have a Space Marine chapter with you, you're probably doomed.
Oh, and then I
The
guess
Night
this
Lords will
brings us
take
right
care of
up
you
to
on the
where we,
nihilist side.
currently are
Don't worry
in
about it.
Indomitus.
Yeah, so the Necrons have been
Blood
waking
Angels
up across the
territory,
galaxy, and certainly in the various different pockets, but primarily where the Silent King has been returning, they've been up to all sorts of nefarious things, including trying to make the Pariah Nexus, which is a bit of the galaxy where they've turned the warp off, which is almost as awful as where they've turned the warp on extra. So you can choose your doom depending on whereabouts in the galaxy you want to go to, but pretty much it's apocalypse everywhere.
Yes. There's still nowhere. Oh, and then the most recent, I guess, big news.
Still in the middle of being released.
Squats unsquatted, baby.
They really need to drop a timetable on the rest of the line because
with
people
the
are
Leagues
hungry.
of Votan, variously given nicknames around the galaxy, but actually a kindred of sort of ancient.
This picture in
Terran
particular really looks
civilization
like an
that
old
sort of drifted
Lego
off into the galactic
Yeah,
void.
these were
space
legendary
manual.
rifles.
Yeah,
I think
like
there
the
was
big
some notes in my codexes that said I could take
scenes they would
25%
set
of my
up.
army with squat allies, and I was like, what are they? And then they never showed up for about 20 odd years.
Space
But here they are,
police
returned,
and
back in
the
bigger than although they are all the
magnetron,
same size.
whatever they're called.
Yep, gotta love it. And
Right.
then
Well,
there's
that's-
our faces.
That's us. So that's the history. You're
It
up
was
to
good.
date.
I loved it. Yeah, do you know what? I get quite excited, and the chat has had all sorts of fun, as well as some speculating on what they might see today.
Yeah, what do you think you're going to see today,
I
Chad?
couldn't say which edition got the biggest shout out, but what I would like to do is just right now, whatever your first edition was, bang the number in the chat. I'm really curious to see. I think fourth had it, but I'm genuine. Oh, it's gone wild. Like as it flies by, there's a lot of 9th edition, which actually
Welcome.
yeah, welcome to the party.
Ninth was my first
it just had
edition.
a full screen.
Yeah, is anybody in chat
This is
talking
exciting.
about what their first edition
I tell you
was
what there
in
is,
our chat?
There's 35
Not yet.
years
Not yet.
of Warhammer hobbyists.
Mark did say third edition was the best
whether you
edition,
are
so
a
Mark's here?
grounded old
He was.
Warhammer fan
I don't know if he's
like
still here.
myself,
What's up,
fresh
Mark?
and, new,
I didn't think you'd actually show up.
Dude, he was painting Land Raiders with house paint.
Happy
It was amazing.
Warhammer Day. I think we're about ready.
So we had a shameless.
We all
plug
make
before
painting
we
mistakes.
dive.
Do we go plug away?
Right. Hang on. Oh.
Rash
There we go. Right. So.
Shameless plug.
That
Shameless
model
plug.
is really
Exciting
cool.
Things about Warhammer
I'm
Day.
gonna have to get one of
Before
those.
we dive into the previews, just a quick reminder that today is Warhammer Day, and every year we have a day that celebrates Warhammer. This year's theme is 35 years of Warhammer 40,000, and we have a special edition miniature to commemorate the occasion. It is a Black Templars Bayard's Revenge, which shows a Black Templar Emperor's Champion stabbing an
I have to
unfortunate...
get a Death Guard
which I
guy
feel
and
a
shove
bit
him
sorry
under
for,
that
but he's
sword.
the model is-
I think he's got exactly what he deserves and
I
nothing
mean,
more.
he wants.
Yeah, I
to
wonder
die
how,
for it. He's
you
alright
know,
with it.
reposable that is.
Really, really cool.
I'm gonna get one
thematic,
and go to work on it with my jeweler saw and my
kind of diorama
mandrels.
piece, really, to celebrate
And try to
Warhammer
make
Day.
it so
You
it's
can
magnetized so I
pick up
can
this
put
on pre-order
whoever I'm fighting
right now,
underneath them.
and it'll also be available in stores from next weekend.
Super. So if you want to celebrate Warhammer
see
Day
how
by
that
buying
works
an
out.
awesome new model, that is how GW.com or games-workshop.com, and you can. But we are about to dive into the first.
Yeah, let's see some new stuff.
Raph, take it away.
Let's go, baby.
That's guard.
Oh, yeah, Imperial Guard.
Finally.
Oh, these are the new shock troops. Oh, they look
Holy
good.
shit, those models are sick.
Yeah.
Dude. They're sticking with Cadia. I like the new las gun. I think that's a new one.
That looks nice. Their helmets don't look as comically large anymore. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go.
Artillery wins wars, huh?
As this
Oh.
this Lufthoron said, big guns never tire. Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Dude. Oh, they've got like field guns.
Yeah, they're doing like
That's nice.
like the Flak 88 type things, you know?
Yeah.
What a way to kick off the preview.
That's awesome.
With the Cadia Stands Army set.
Guess I'm gonna have to
so there's a whole
put my
lot of
Imperial
new
Guard
things on the
together.
way for the Astra Militarum, particularly for Cadia.
I didn't know they were
So
getting that
there is
much
a
new stuff.
army
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
Set, and there is a range
My
of
guard,
miniatures that are coming
they're like
alongside.
kind of
Let's have a look at the
Napoleonic
box set.
themed. Those like field guns would be very
This is,
appropriate.
much as we've seen recently with things like the Leagues of Votan, the relaunch of the Astra Militarum, including pretty much fundamentally reinvention of the infantry range, starts with an
Seemed
army
like
launch
this-
set, and this is what you get in that set. So it's the Cadia stand set.
scale
You
of
get
the
two
soldiers
squads
is a little bit
of,
larger, maybe.
Cadian shock troops.
I think
you
they
get
bumped
a
them.
sentinel, which you can build up as an armored or a scout sentinel. You get a command squad, and you get two new artillery pieces, which is a brand new unit for the Astra Militarum, which you can build in a variety of different ways. The other thing you get in the army set is the first access to the Codex, which has got all the new rules for your army, for all the new units that are joining your army, and for the various different ways you can put an Astra Militarum army together. It's probably fair to say that Imperial Guard, Astra Militarum fans have been waiting for their army for quite a long time. They're like pretty much last up of the existing armies for this edition. But one of the reasons is that they it's worth the wait. Basically, there's a huge amount of stuff
It's
coming.
pretty
So,
hard to argue anything else.
yeah, so there's
That looks
loads
really
and loads
good.
of really cool stuff in there. But that is your
Those
launch
artillery
set.
pieces
That's
are
what you get
bonkers.
to kick
I love that
off
art.
your new Cadian force.
Oh, yeah.
Box art's
You can
crazy.
Box
have a
art's
look at
awesome.
Some of
Some of the
the
details.
some of the
I love that they
details.
gave all the guys like
So here you can
backpacks.
see the Cadian shock troops.
dude.
They are the backbone
The
of
dynamic
the Cadian
poses and
regiments, of
stuff.
course,
Oh, dude.
dispossessed since their
That
World
run.
War incident.
Just
as we've
drilling that
learned,
fucking bolter.
Wherever there are
I love that.
Cadians
That's a less
standing
gun.
next to the
Excuse me.
Cadia remains.
I
And so,
know you're
it's
saying-
Does that thing have a wire stock on it?
kit with
Yeah,
some
it's
gorgeous-
got folding
That's
wire
crazy.
stock.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
cool, man.
So
They
it's
get
a
the paratrooper model
kit
of the
that you
last
can
gun
build in
out
a load
now.
of different ways. If you've had a play with things like the new
Oh, the comms guy looks like
Death
he's
Corps
got a
range or any of the kind of recent squads like that,
Yeah.
you get an idea
Yeah,
of
it's
like,
like a-
the flexibility and the
a
range of
modern
different options.
Yeah, it's
slide.
just the running guy's got a wire
There's
stock.
variety in the kit. You can see already if you've got any of the old Cadians have ever painted them up that the level of detail on these new miniatures is like a real step up. This is like a much improved kit with loads of options.
I like their
There's a
helmet
few things that are
redesign.
worth calling out about the set. So one of the things that you might notice about the set is that it has multiple special weapons in, but it doesn't have
Might be a little
heavy
weird, but I
weapons.
like their knees.
One of the things
Their
about
knees
the
look
new
good.
Cadian shock troop unit is that you've got a choice in how you want to use those miniatures in your games.
Kinda
You can
weird
either
how
use
it's,
them
like,
as
just
an
on the
infantry
pants
squad,
with no
in which
strap.
case you can add on a heavy weapon.
make pants with
Or
that
you
shit
can use
attached
a
to it.
dedicated Cadian shock troop unit.
Day I
The
learned.
Cadians, I've got years of experience as shock troops fighting against chaos incursions, so they favour a more mobile style of
I like that
play.
they got
So
spats.
you can use the unit if you want to.
As a touch of
instead of having
class.
a heavy weapon, you can use them as specific.
Oh, Melta
shock
guy's
troops,
got
so
a
you
cool
get
helmet.
multiple special weapons and some extra
Oh,
rules
yeah.
to represent their unique abilities as shock troops.
Awesome. And as you can see, there's a host of options within the new infantry squad. You've got Flamer, Melter Gun, you had a plasma gun on the previous page.
All the
You've got
classics.
Vox Operator, Sergeant, loads of great poses, loads of options. It's going to be very good fun for people who want to build squads. That look
There's no kneeling legs in the kit, of course, because
Is that because the Cadians stand?
that's because Cadians stand.
Boom. And a lot of love for these in the chat. We are not done with the Cadians by any measure. This is the Cadian Command Squad. Everything you'd expect. Obviously, you've got the officer, the veteran sergeant, Vox caster, standard bearer, and a medic. The medic's my favourite. Literally just stood there chilling out.
This comms guy's wild
I mean, I
looking.
think
Yeah.
probably when the battle starts, he's going to
He
have
ain't
a
having a
very
good
rough
time.
afternoon.
You know there's
But
not
right
good
now,
information coming in on the
he's
other end
not
of that
having a
radio.
mistake.
So.
But again, it adds loads more options and bits to your kits as well, so you can mix and
I like
match
that
this to some
standard
extent
bearer.
with the other
Just
Cadians,
like,
so heads and things are
This is my
interchangeable.
flag.
I wonder if you have to
detail on them
freehand
is
all
lovely.
that,
You've
or if
got,
that's like molded onto
sculpted
it.
banners on there and things like that. There's the
He just said
power
sculpted
fist, the guy
banners.
with the power fist that you can just about make out. We've got a cigar, which is like a pretty classic Cadian thing. There's lots of bits of artwork.
You know you're a
of,
battle-hardened sergeant.
Absolutely, yeah,
You're
when you're allowed to have a
cigar stub.
yeah, I really like the Vox guy at the top who's got like a mix of weird future tech and also he's like printing out a
Is it
little
like
read.
some sort of printing
Oh
out
yeah, he
series?
does have the little printer.
You've got a receipt for that artillery bombardment.
Gotta keep the
The
receipts,
commander's
baby.
really cool as well. He's got a power
He
sword
was
there,
trained
he's
at
got
the,
like a holding helmet pose,
Costco
and
Academy.
Clearly he's been through the wars as well because he's got a huge scar across the front of his face. But a really characterful, almost again a diorama-esque sort of unit to show off your painting skills, because you might have quite a lot of infantry in your army, but you can take your time on these guys to kind of show what you can do. But really cool, thematic, characterful little unit.
Also, the banner was amazing. Like that sculptural detail.
Field
on the banner
ordnance.
was incredible.
I like the
If you are
sound of
like me, you
that.
can't freehand save your life. Absolute winner. This is my favourite thing in the set. I suspect much of the chat will agree. The field ordnance battery. So you get two of these in the set. The options you can build
Are these existing units
and
or are
then
these
guns.
new?
Not
The command squad and the
really.
field batteries.
Scrolls to get them there.
There's heavy
Because the
weapon
last thing I wanna
teams,
do
which
is
one of those
mislead
is a
the
las
chat.
cannon, and you could
But
take
you
heavy,
have
those in the,
a
the heavy weapons
las
team.
cannon, that's
But,
front and center. Then you have, I think it's called a bombard gun.
I think it is. Yeah. Yeah.
And then, I'm gonna forget the name. Tactically blow the name of the other artillery piece. You just have to trust me that it's awesome, and I will scroll through my list and find it. But yeah, so you get two of these ordnance teams
It's
for the people
a
who want to know.
bombast field gun,
Perfect.
a heavy las cannon, and a malice rocket launcher.
Of
That's what
course.
you got.
oh, heavy las
They do
cannon.
some different things, as you'd imagine. These are like artillery pieces. You park them at the back of your army, and they blast stuff from really far away. They've all got pretty hefty range. They all shoot 48 inches. And the choices you've got basically are that rocket launcher on the top left. That is just a vast amount of hits on something. So you point that at something you want to get loads of hits against. That's your infantry wrecker. The heavy las cannon does what you'd expect. It's a las cannon plus, so it does more damage than a regular las
cannon,
cannon.
but
It's a big heavy las cannon. It kind of, you could probably even guess the stats if you took a go. And then the bomb blast at the top right is basically, if you think about it, as like a slightly smaller earthshaker cannon. So you can shoot stuff that you can't see. It dishes out multiple blast damage 2 shots. So you can park that behind a big building or something out of line of sight and pummel away at the enemy in relative safety.
Yeah. Other things to point out about this kit, which are super cool, is obviously you've got loads of different sort of heads and arm poses as you look across the different sort of bases with the field guns on. You can see you've got one covering his ears. You've got the option to be pointing at targets or raising your hand, calling for fire. Different head options. They're fantastic. It all comes on a 100mm base for that one person in the chat who usually asks what size bases they're on.
That one guy loves his bases.
And with all these sort of munition boxes,
Krieg
and things, you
armies are
basically
gonna
can
like
create yourself
these.
like a lovely
They're
little
very
siege,
like World
as
War
well
One.
as a devastating long-range weapon for your army. I'm going to struggle very much to resist building mine as a
Mark's in
bombast,
chat. He's probably
because I think it
salivating.
looks awesome.
They all
100
look
mil
pretty
base.
cool. I like the
Suckers
missile
are
launcher myself.
big.
I think
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think any field gun that's big enough that you could put your head down the barrel. That's where it is for me.
Yeah, but it's not just
More firepower, Eddie.
absolutely. It's not just the army set. So accompanying the new army set soon after it, those kits will be available individually, and they'll be backed up by a range of other things. So one of the things that is a staple, almost essential.
Man, they're getting a
of
pretty big
Astra
range
Militarum
refresh,
are
huh?
Heavy weapon teams.
Yeah,
They need
it looks
it.
like across the
How you
board.
use these.
Yeah.
You can either put them
Bet
together
most of the
as
tanks
squads,
are gonna stay
or
the
use them as a
same.
little, triple-
You think we're gonna get the Rogel battle tank?
I think we're going to see the Dorn today because it's already been lightly
Heavy
leaked,
firepower to your infantry
and
squads, and they can have a missile launcher.
they're doing
or a
all
launcher or
this.
something to
Might
back
as
them
well.
up in killing stuff that they might otherwise struggle with. Much like the artillery, each one of these effectively gives you a little diorama scene to play out. You've got like the guys reloading and spotting and shouting orders and directing fire and things like that. You guys know what these do. They've been in Warhammer 40,000 for about 30 years at this point. But it's
yeah,
nice to see
absolutely.
a reinvention of the miniatures.
And then somebody has to keep these,
That guy
these
looks
guys
really
in line. And there will be a new
That
Astra
is
Militarum commissar.
going to be a
who
very
looks
good
really
kit
quite
bash right
stern
there.
and uncompromising.
you
Yeah,
make
he looks like he's
Inquisitors
doing
out of
business,
that.
doesn't he? So,
His face is still a
most
little
of your
gnarly,
Astra
but
Militarum
it's
have
an
got
improvement.
las guns.
Well, just chop
I think
his
it's a
head
nice
off,
touch
put a
that
gas
it's got
mask head on there.
bolt gun, because you could
Good to go.
almost the sound of the discharge of that will keep the troops in line, right?
Yep.
He's also got a power sword. It looks a pretty hefty means business power sword by the look of it as well, and he's a little bit more armoured maybe than some of the commissars we've previously seen.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Some of the commissars we've seen over the years.
I do like the
have
army,
heroic
the
leads
armour
on
looks
the
sick.
front
Armour looks very
poses,
good.
don't they? Whereas he almost
Like
seems
his own
like
little
he's
tactical
sinister,
rocks,
standing
too.
at the back, making sure you're doing your job.
Yeah, you see like an onrushing horde of orcs, and you look behind you and you see this guy looking sternly at you. You're like, maybe I will. Maybe I'll stand here and fight the orcs.
Yeah, he looks great, but also not at all friendly, which I guess is appropriate.
That's what
for
you
a
want. I
commissar.
mean, you don't become a commissar to make friends. I don't.
We can't all be Ibram Gorn, can we? So if you want to stand a little higher than your friends, of course there is the new Sentinels. As you mentioned earlier, Eddie.
I'm so
the
glad they
Sentinels
kept that
enables you to
dumbass
do-
chainsaw.
this is the
Oh,
spec-
I love it
Oh,
so
yeah.
much.
Yeah, so it's obviously a little bit lighter than the armor sentinel we've seen, and we do have a shot later on that shows you what happens when you choose each option in terms of how much armor it gets.
that
The
thing
scout
sticking
sentinel's
out
got
of
some
its
nice
butt?
touches. So you've got Acadian in there that's
Counterbalance.
driving it, which you can interchange. For
It's
the
trying
heads
to cheat
options
at
versus
chess.
Some of the other kits. Equipment on the side of it as well, which is kind of hinting towards that scout nature.
Topical
You can imagine
commentary.
These
Yeah.
things range ahead of the rest of the Astra Militarum army, and maybe set up little camps and
That
things.
antenna's going to break immediately.
Keep watch on enemy positions, that sort of thing. And you can give it a chainsword, which actually in the new rules isn't too bad in combat. It's not too shabby actually.
Good to know.
It used to be almost like a token extra attack, but now it can. It's not going to win a fight against any dreadnoughts, but it can certainly see off some light infantry or something like that.
Yeah, I think the protrusion
that's smaller than I thought
at the
it was.
back, I think, is its gyro stabilizer to help it going through more difficult terrain. I saw a question about that, but and then here you can see the scout alongside the armored sentinel. Armored all day for me. My current Astra Militarum army is a Steel Legion army. So
I like
and
the
it's,
armored sentinel.
it's got the heavier armor on the legs. It's got the heavier armor all around the cabin. Looks fantastic.
Yeah, and you can see there's the difference really between these two and the current Sentinel kits is the current one. The only difference really between the armored and non-armored ones is like a roof, basically. Whereas these ones do look like different miniatures. It looks much lighter on the,
it's got
the
like
light version.
gun on top.
These obviously also
missile on the side.
a nice thing for Genestealer Cults players. Like
Armored
myself,
legs.
I might be picking up a few of these and
Dude, they
painting
just
them
talked about
purple with
Genestealer
some
Cults.
graffiti sprawled across them.
That's because
They look
Genestealer Cults can
quite
take guard,
similar
but
to
why
some of
would you
those
do that?
kind of mining things
Hey,
where they've got kind of
Actually,
nice look
actually,
to them.
you know, when they get their new
No
book, that might actually make Genestealer Cults viable.
Yeah.
Of course, there's got to be some rules for these guys in the new codex, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that is worth noting about the new Astra Militarum army is that currently the way that you do an Astra Militarum force is that you need to pick a regiment, and then once you've kind of picked a regiment, you're sort of locked into that force. That's not the way that the new rules work for Astra Militarum. It's much more similar to if you remember the Imperial Guard armies of maybe 2nd edition, where you had like a few Mordians and you had a few Cadians and maybe a squad of Catachan jungle fighters, all mixed together, kind of formed into a grand crusade under the banner of a kind of high commander, and you'd have some auxiliary units like Ogrins and things like that. So what you do in the new Astra Militarum army is that you get all your models together and you can pull them from wherever you want. So you can have your shock troops fighting alongside your death corps, fighting alongside your jungle fighters, and then you go, the theme of the army is going to be that this army is going to specialize in parade drills or target practice or heavy weapons or artillery or something like that.
Yep.
And within that, you can choose what special rules you want to apply. So it basically means that you don't need to decide on your rules before you start collecting your miniatures. There are obviously themes that lend themselves really well to existing regiments. So we've got a couple of examples up there. So parade drill is a good one. If you have a Mordian army and you like lining them up in firing ranks as the enemy charge towards you, this is one of the army special rules that you can choose to have, which gives you a benefit for basically standing still with your troops and firing with your las guns. If you have a Death Corps of Krieg army and you like the idea of having, pushing waves and waves of infantry into the meat grinder of war, this allows you to basically benefit from taking casualties and you can hit back harder. So there are regiments that lend themselves to specific rules, but you don't have to stick within that regiment. So lots of people will have picked up maybe Kill Team last year, and they'll have a squad of Death Corps of Krieg. You can absolutely put those in with your new Cadians, and it works as an army.
I mean, when you think about all the classic stories of Imperial Guard in Black Library novels, the Astra Militarum often operating combined operations, multiple regiments all in one battle zone. The friction between the different guard regiments is one of my favourite things about the Gaunt's Ghost books, for example. And somebody in the chat just suggested that you should always...
It's a little cut off. But the bottom part says that you change the type of las guns to heavy 2.
It seems completely right in my mind. Also, big shout out to the extremely sort of gnarly look of the Cadian shock troopers in this artwork. The grim dark aesthetic dialed up to 11.
I think a lot of the
This
art is so good. I love this shit.
There's an artist who's been working on some of these that has just got that grim darkness absolutely down. Obviously, these Acadians who've lost their planet and have probably been through the wars for the past few decades, and these guys, rather than just being a bit sad about it, have decided to get vengeance.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen some questions flying by in the chat, but there is like 27,000 of you, so my chances, 28,000 of you now. My chances
Well,
of
that looks
covering
really
more
cool.
are pretty slim. Somebody said, have we said when the miniature is going up for pre-order? If you're referring to the Bayar's Revenge Warhammer Day miniature, that should be available for pre-order on the website now. If you're talking about this particular army set, sometime in the not too distant future,
It's not far
keep
off.
your eyes
It's not far off.
peeled
Just
on
tell me.
WarhammerCommunity.com, and I'm sure we'll get you the latest.
They like to tease you.
I know.
Tantalize.
Trust me.
So, and I think
A little bit too much if you ask me.
But that can all be confirmed later. I don't know, maybe somebody wants to write an article about base sizes. It's not me that wants to write that, though, I swear. Right. Whew. That was pretty wild.
It's worth saying that isn't everything that's on its way. For
Do you mean there might be more
there is
Astra
more stuff on the way for the Astra Militarum, maybe within this preview, and maybe even more after
Dorn
that.
tank,
We've shown you the about half, maybe, of the new Cadian stuff that's on its way.
Excellent. As for this Cadia Stands army set, we've mentioned you get the Codex. That Codex is its sort of special edition cover. We haven't shown the cover. Trust me, it's amazing. But when you see the cover, eventually you'll realise why we haven't shown it yet. And also, there's a transfer sheet for all of your unit sort of marking needs. There we go. I think we've covered that off. We are well behind schedule. This is great.
It's all right. It's fine.
Why don't we throw over to the Warhammer Studios Warhammer 40,000 Lore Master, who's going to tell us all about the next big thing coming our way.
Arcs of Omen is a massive narrative campaign event taking place for all the factions in the Warhammer 40,000 universe.
What is it?
Named for particular space hulks that have emerged in the Warhammer 40,000 universe.
Arcs of Omen.
So these are space hulks that have been tooled up a little bit. Abaddon has some assistance, it's fair to say, from a new player who's entered the game, who's turned these space hulks into Arcs of Omen. This is part of Abaddon's ongoing plan to subjugate the galaxy. It's a pretty big ask, so he does need some assistance, and it's probably fair to say it's not going to be good news for anyone not aligned with the War Master. So the introduction of a new fleet of tooled up space hulks with accompaniment from Chaos war fleets from various lieutenants and chosen warlords in Abaddon's service means there's a whole new scope for entirely different types of warfare in the 41st millennium. So you'll find new rules for boarding actions distributed through the Arcs of Omen campaign books as we're taking the fight onto space hulks, spaceships, orbital stations, anything that you can imagine in space, and taking the fight off the battlefields of the planets of the 41st millennium
fine fighting,
into
boys.
those sorts of environments. So it'll make use of some of the scenery that you'll have been familiar with from Kill Team Into the Dark, but scaling it up for a Warhammer 40,000 scale boarding action.
That was
So
cool.
similarly to Kill Team Into the Dark,
You know how I was talking about making a ship interior map?
taking place, and there'll be
Yep.
certain
I
units
guess I gotta get to work on that.
I wonder if they release
so than others.
this
So
terrain
some of the
separately so
longer-ranged troops
you
maybe
can build
not
full
getting
40k
quite so
maps
much
with it.
engineering, but the close quarter bruisers and breachers, Tau breaching teams, Terminators, the sort of things that you can associate with Space Hulk clearing actions, that sort of stuff will certainly get a good run out, I'd have thought, in the boarding actions. So Abaddon's goal is to take over the galaxy, not like Horus did as a vassal or a slave to the Chaos powers, but using his own strength and his own merits. But the galaxy's a pretty big target to try to take over, so he's had to make certain alliances and deal with various power brokers that exist in the galaxy of the 41st millennium. And we're going to see the introduction of a hitherto unknown figure that's going to help him in that regard. So there's something for every Warhammer 40,000 collector. There's new rules for every faction to take part in boarding actions in the Void, and there's also some huge
hitherto unknown.
background models.
Hitherto
And Arcs of
unknown.
Omen will probably go down as the biggest event in Warhammer 40,000 history since the establishment of the Great Rift.
What the hell does hitherto mean, though?
Up until this point. That's actually his name, is Hitherto Unknown.
It's one of the names of
Wade's
the
done a
Arcs of
pretty
Omen.
I guess he's
good,
summed
pretty
up
good
with
job
it.
of telling you what's going on, but Arcs of Omen basically is the next major narrative
split
beat
second.
of Warhammer 40,000.
I got
This is
excited. There's
Abaddon's
gonna be
next
Battlefield
major
Gothic
play,
too.
basically. He's ripped the galaxy in half
How
with
dare
the signature Khmer victim. He's
Look at that.
been all
the
but
ships.
victorious at Vigilus.
It's a new
His
Battlefield
next play
Gothic where
is
you have to like
alongside a
melt
new
down your miniatures and stick them
demonic
together to
ally
make space
He
hulks.
is, he's created the Arcs of Omen and huge fleets of ships which have gone out to collect artifacts for some unknown nefarious purpose. It's kind of the dark mirror almost of the Indomitus Crusade, setting out
Ooh,
to
I like that
yeah, it's good, isn't it? It's good.
depiction,
To setting out to find all sorts of like arcane trinkets and relics and things across the galaxy. Nobody really knows what he's up to, but everyone's pretty sure it's going to be bad news if he succeeds.
He's aging, so
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
new level
the
hobby
scene
that
is
he's
set for
into.
something sort of very epic. You can see here this like
Next he's going to start getting into historicals.
conglomeration, this space Hulk thing vomited out.
He's building mobile homes and he's
pretty
antiquing.
sick, to be honest.
Yeah, you can see like bits of teeth there coming out. So I mean, it means
When
that
space has teeth and tongues,
yeah,
you know
it's
you're in trouble.
nice. So the arcs themselves are space hulks. They're these enormous, great conglomerations of loads of ships mashed together over the millennia inside the warp and turned into enormous, great floating fortresses. Chaos has kind of taken them and turned them into these enormous arcs. So these are the center of Chaos fleets. And basically they've sent them out, and there's battles erupting all across the galaxy, not just against the Imperium, but against all sorts of different factions where they're trying to grab them. And obviously, some forces are trying to stop them. So the Imperium obviously isn't a fan of these, but also there's Eldar, and where they're bumping into other civilizations in the galaxy, there's battles erupting. So from a lore perspective, this is really huge, right? This is the next major thing that's happening for Warhammer 40,000. The other thing that this means, a new series, a new narrative will also herald new miniatures. So there will be lots of cool new things, right? There'll be lots of cool new things that are tying into this as well. And we'll have a closer look at some of those in the future, but not today. One of the kind of so I suppose defining nature of the battles that's happening off the back of the Arcs of Omen is that these great big arcs are either
looks like
attacking
a
Imperial
venom
stations
crawler,
and fleets.
It's a venom crawler
or
with
they're
Zinch
trying to
heads
be
on it.
boarded by,
Yeah, it's like a
the
huge
Imperials
venom
and
crawler,
other
though.
Xenos races to stop them. So you've got these enormous, great boarding action battles that are erupting all across the place. So there's some rules to play those inside the books. So there's an interesting thing about these books, which is kind of come directly from feedback from customers, which is that you don't have any new rules for the core Warhammer 40,000 game.
So for match play specifically, right?
Kind of for all of the game, really. So there's no Crusade rules in these. There's no match play rules in these, and that's come from feedback from players basically that says we don't really want our rules for a single army to be spread over multiple books, which is cool. Like we hear you. So what you've got in these instead is something even better, which is a brand new way to play Warhammer 40,000. It's a self-contained expansion that basically allows you to play boarding action battles of Warhammer 40,000. So these aren't the kind of small-scale skirmishes that we've seen in things like Into the Dark. This is full-scale, one army versus another army across the inside of a spaceship, smashing each other to pieces, reminiscent of some of the best bits of fiction, basically, of Warhammer 40,000. If you've read any of
That's exciting.
large amount of 40k fiction, there's probably a boarding action in there somewhere, and they're
There's
always
actually
pretty cool.
loads of them.
Oh, yeah.
Here, don't you?
There's,
Where,
there's,
you know,
yeah,
Imperial
it's
fists
boarding
or
tastic.
boarding everybody's ships and then getting their heads kicked in.
I want to say
Wonderful.
most of
So
the
I
battles
guess,
I've read
it's
about
fair to
the
say
Horus Heresy are
that,
boarding actions.
This heralds
They'd
something
love to
new
do
and
it.
exciting for Warhammer 40,000, but we're going to need like some new way to.
You're gonna need some terrain.
Yep, perfect. Segue. Let's go.
Show us.
They're doing it.
They heard you.
The galaxy is burning, so get away from it all on a beautiful space
I love this.
Imperial Cruises. Thanks to our new boarding action package, you can step right off the boat and experience the trip of a short and violent lifetime. You'll never escape this labyrinth or run out of things to see and do. All a short walk away through corridors too cozy for traffic. There's never a dull moment when the locals come to put on a show. And while you're taking in the sights, don't miss the decaying remains of civilization around your feet.
I like
You'll find history
those must be
in every
bases.
step.
Yeah.
So what are you waiting for? We await your visit on the Arcs of Omen.
Hell yeah. Let's go on a cruise.
Boarding actions, an enormous set of terrain so you can fight your own battles on the inside of some derelict Hulk.
Absolutely. So we've seen already that the first place we've seen this terrain is in the Into the Dark set.
Absolutely.
This is a much bigger expansion of that, basically. So this is a Warhammer 40,000 sized battlefield for
That's
combat
not
control
that
size
much.
games of Warhammer 40,000.
We're gonna need like 2 or
using,
3 of those boxes.
boarding actions, terrain.
That just might be
so it's
like
played
one of
across,
each of
and
the
inside
unique
that box
pieces.
you
I know
get
Into the Dark,
2
you had
Kill
2
Team
sets of
boards
like,
worth of
what the
scenery.
unique pieces are.
And combat patrol battles generally are played about 500 points.
looks the
but what tends to
same,
happen is
too.
because
Like, I
it
think
doesn't
this is
include
the
things like
same
monsters and vehicles.
They're saying
you tend to
it's,
have slightly different force compositions than you
built
would
around
for
combat
a
patrol.
patrol size game. So you tend to
500
find
Okay,
things
yeah,
like
so I'll probably need
Terminators and
3.
Orknobs and Tau Breacher teams and Striking Scorpions and all those kind of like close range deadly units, which are either close combat or very short-range firefights.
Maybe I
very
can
well.
supplement that
And you have
from some
it's
of
a very
my
different play experience from Warhammer
work in my
40,000,
workshop.
actually. And it gives you something really interesting to bring into things like if you're doing a campaign or something at home and you want to kind of recreate a different type of battle that's underground or in a spaceship or something like that.
This is tickling my
those
grand
sort of links
campaign
and games where you can
desires.
start to sort of create a narrative for your gaming group are a delight.
Yep.
And these really sing to that. And as you can see, the games themselves have the potential to look just incredible, don't they? Sort of fighting over every doorway, every corridor, every choke point and corner. Yep, love it.
It's going to be interesting to see how games 40k play out in this kind of environment.
Box set contains sort of 2 times the content of the Kill Team set that was released recently. So if you already have 2 of those, then you and a friend have bought one each, and you've got enough terrain to play your boarding actions.
If you've got
anyway.
the Arks of Omen book, then you can immediately start playing, basically. Yeah.
But likewise, just pick up one of these and you are good to go. Also, bases. They look really cool. I mean, lots of people like having bases themed to the battle zones they're playing in. These will also be a piece of cake to paint if you spray them, and give them a dry brush.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's a small thing, isn't it? But it's nice to have some really cool base options. Lots of Warhammer 40,000 armies obviously have got grass tufts and dirt and things like that. But plenty of the battlefields of Warhammer 40,000 are inside, industrial, in spaceships, that sort of thing. And certainly some armies lend themselves very well to this sort of aesthetic. So if you've got, like, Imperial Fists or Iron Warriors or Gene Stealers or Terminator-led Force, then actually having a kind of space hulky looking boarding actiony flavoured scenery kit for your bases will just set the models up really nicely.
Yeah, perfect. So, Warhammer 40,000 boarding actions. So we've also just to do a bit of sort of retreading to where we come from. We've unveiled the Cadia Stands Army box. We've talked about the Arks of Omens. We've talked about Warhammer 40,000 boarding actions. Be nice maybe to give Kill Team a little bit of a look in and see how it connects to this theme.
We'll see.
Welcome to the Shadow Vault.
Shadow Vault.
Yeah, we don't know what this is. It's probably going to be Karskins.
Khazarkins versus Necrons.
Yep.
Look at that gun turret.
Look at that buzzsaw robot!
Oh.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I like that demo trooper. I guess 40k and Kill Team are both going hard into the boarding action side of things.
Yeah.
This is like all combined, the rumored Space Hulk reboot.
That'd be pretty dope. You could basically play Space Hulk, new Kill Team.
For Kill Team,
Yeah.
featuring
Although there's no Terminators.
a very beloved
Kill Team at the
unit
moment.
of Astra militarum soldiers.
Which is unfortunate, but
some treasure
that's what
hunters. Is that a fair
the Arks
description
are
among the
going
Necrons?
Yeah, so this is Shadow Vaults, the first expansion for Kill Team Into the Dark, and effectively allows you to bolt this on to your Into the Dark collection, or to kind of use as a standalone Kill Team kit alongside the core rules for Kill Team. So there's loads of cool stuff in this box, but the 2 things that are probably going to catch people's eye are the units. You've got a new Kazakhin unit of Cadians, and you've got a new unit of Necrons. So, Adam, I know you're a big fan of the Kazakhin. Do you want to...
That sharpshooter with the cloak is so
I'm
sick.
going to start by addressing a question, which is what's the difference between Kazakhin and Tempestus Scions? And the difference
looks
is that
reminds
those
me
are
a lot of the
elite soldiers
Eliminator poses,
of the Gate
honestly.
World Cadia. Such as it was, obviously, with Cadia destroyed, the Kazakhin...
He's not squatting, though,
that
because
escaped
Cadia stands,
continue to
remember.
exist and recruit and train new ones. Kazakhin are seriously elite soldiers amongst a regiment, the regiments of Cadia, that pride themselves on being more elite than your average Astra militarum regiments anyway. They're clad in carapace armour, which is that heavy armour you see. They carry hellguns or hotshot lasguns as their standard armament. They have a preponderance of specialist weapons you'll see throughout the squad. You've got things like the long last sniper rifle, the flamer. They've got grenade launchers and plasma guns, and they are tasked for rapid deployment when Cadia existed to any places where incursions would take place. You can imagine them leaping out of Valkyries and rumbling out the back of Chimeras and just bringing death with fusillades of incredibly accurate firepower. These are the elite of the elite if you are just an ordinary human.
Yeah, this is about as elite as a human gets, aren't they? And these guys would have been tasked, where KDO existed, with taking down enemy traitor Astartes, to give you an idea of how tough these guys are. So their weapons, a lot of them are designed to be kind of armor-piercing, Space Marine killing weapons, basically. This kit is incredibly flexible.
It's super versatile.
If you've had a play with any of the recent Kill Team
Demo
kits,
guy
so
is
things like
thick.
Corsairs or the Death
Yeah,
Corps
he's
or
a
the
big
Commandos, you get a sense of like
Got
what
that
I mean by
extra
that.
pad.
You can build these as, you know, with mostly with their hotshot las guns, or you can go for loads of different special weapon choices. You've got every special weapon flavour you could want. There's also some kind of unique kill teamy specialists in there. So you've got a demolition guy that you can see on the extreme left there. You've got comms troopers. You've got sergeants. You've got snipers. You've got all sorts of different things. So it really is a super flexible kit. It's a really nice reinvention as well of a metal unit from about 20 years ago.
40 of these in metal.
Are the old
some of my favourites, and I think this
Kasrkin
is a tremendous
still metal?
reimagining. For context, you were referring to.
I think so, yeah.
We're talking. You can have
Those
all
came
types
out
of
in
hotshot las guns.
third
You can have
edition.
2 with melter guns, 2 with plasma guns, 2 with
Stepping
grenade
on your
launchers, 2
cable
with
here.
flamers, 2 with hotshot volley guns, and then you've got hotshot
don't do that,
specialists,
don't do
the
that.
combat medic, demo trooper, recon trooper, sharpshooter, and box trooper. And a squad sergeant.
Yeah. So for me, I think one of the things that the Kill Team boxes have done is quite a lot of the time, I want to get 2 boxes just because there's so many options. Certainly, if you've been using something like the Astra militarum or the Blooded, you've got more options that are really good that you want to use, right? So you can get a few of these sets and intermingle them depending on your opponent. Obviously, that's for Kill Team. If you're playing Warhammer 40,000, you can use these guys as well.
Yeah.
They're going to have rules in the new.
That was one of the questions: is will these work well in Warhammer 40,000? The answer is hell yes.
Yeah, so
They're
they've
going to
got,
be awesome.
they've got a really fun thing that they do in Warhammer 40,000, where earlier on we were talking about the different regiment rules that you can give to your force. What Kasrkin do is everybody in your army gets a regiment rule, but because these guys are elite, they get another one. So they can pick from any of the other regiment rules. So you can say these guys used to be siege veterans, or they've been had extra parade drills, or they've had extra they're extra tough or resilient or something
And
like
they
that.
specialise in something else on top.
Yeah, so it's a little bit like if you used to do a similar thing with veteran squads for Imperial Guards, where they used to have a few extra rules. That's basically this. So they're more elite than the rest of your army, which is
These
represented
guys are going to be
by
combo
another,
pieces, then they're going to find the
bonus
2
armor
best
or
or
it's a
some
really nice
crazy
thing.
synergy with 2
The
of
great
them.
rules for
and
these guys
then-
will be in the Guard Codex in the KDS Stance box, and then released separately shortly afterwards. So you'll be able to get your hands on it nice and promptly. Don't panic. But they're not alone. They're not just sort of having a parade. They are fighting against the Hierotek Circle, which are a group of Necrons with some new things added in and some awesome upgrades, right?
Yeah, so the idea for this faction is that it's a Cryptek and his retinue, basically. So he is exploring the Space Hulks, looking for artifacts, looking for kind of arcane treasures, and he's brought his warriors with him in case he bumps into any enemies, which is what you want to do inside a Space Hulk. So some of these miniatures are miniatures we've seen before. So the Cryptek in the centre is an existing miniature, and then some of them are brand new, and some of them are upgrade kits for existing Necrons. So it's a bit of a mix of different things. One of my favourite touches is the smaller Necron that you can see there, the guy just to the left of the Cryptek. He is an Apprentech, so he's basically a Cryptek in training. He's like an apprentice to the Cryptek, and he's not quite got the kind of arcane skill, but he kind of knows his way around some kind of dark physics, and he's got a kind of cool staff as well.
Is
He
it
can look
wrong
after
that I
himself in
find the
combat.
Necron subordinates quite adorable?
I think there is a sort of like humorous tragedy to the Necrons in terms of like how they've hierarchied themselves. But what's quite sad, obviously, is that the Cryptek will probably never die, right? Because he's a Necron, so he'll never actually get to be a Cryptek. He'll just kind of stay as a secondary support guy for eternity, which is a little bit sad.
Yeah, somebody in the chat said Necron looking for artifacts. They are the artifacts, yes, but if you imagine their tomb worlds have been plundered for, I don't know, like 1 billion years since they went to sleep, and there's a lot of stuff missing.
Yes.
So I don't blame them, sending out expeditions.
Anyone seen my ancient vase?
Exactly, right. These are some serious foes to fight against. The immortal Despotek, which is the fellow in the centre right now, just looks like final boss level when you compare these two kill teams directly against
He's a
each other.
literal death machine.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
So this kit is based on the existing Immortals and Deathmark kit, but you can obviously make that kind of more interesting character in the middle, and you get some other multi-part options for your Necrons as well, which is something nice because a lot of your Necrons are quite kind of they are serried ranks of identical warriors, right? That's kind of their thing. But the warriors inside a Cryptek circle have things like different optics. So if you look at the death marks there, they've got different choices for heads, and you can imagine specialist tracking equipment and seeing through walls and backwards in time and all sorts of weird and wonderful extra death dealing tech that they've got.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody asked what was the base size on the the Kazakin.
Who is this guy?
28.5 millimeters. Some people just like to know the base size.
Okay,
Who am I to
sure,
judge?
sure.
That's
there are
what
also
that
some
was.
awesome little extras in this set, as well as the models and the terrain and so on. These are
They're just
very
battle bots.
handy little robot units. I think they're actually described as robots. I'm not just making that up.
That's a straight
you
up
have
cargo
a
bomb in the
heavy
upper right.
mortar-type sentry and a robot crawler machine.
arsenals
with or
and
without
stuff.
breacher arm. And it does look like it's going to become the new champion of Robot Wars. I, for one, just want to stick the heavy bolter turret down at the end of a long corridor and watch chaos.
Or if you could actually use those.
So these are some of the extra bits that you get.
That's what it
in
sounds
with
like.
The scenery basically that comes with this new set. A lot of the scenery is kind of expansions and stuff that you got in Into the Dark, but there's a few extra frames that kind of give you a little bit more variety. And these things do stuff in your games and allow you to play slightly different scenarios and missions and that sort of stuff. So they give you a very space hulky flavour to your kill team games, even more so than battling down the corridors that you've got.
I have the tractor from an older edition of Kill Team that you can do a joyride on as an action.
Coming soon, Shadow Bolts.
Yeah, that was a fun little
the
set.
new Kill Team.
Coming very soon. Very soon.
Oh, and here's a juicy piece of information, which is around the same time that this comes out. I think it's the same week. There is a Black Library novel all about Kazakin, written by a fella, and I had a dip into that just recently, and it's excellent. So there you go, a little tidbit from behind the scenes. Very excited. Right. We're not done yet, but we're running gloriously behind schedule. Some people have been asking in the chat, can you please show us something for the World Eaters? All right then.
Blood for the Blood God!
Mutilators coming back.
Oh, they got Juggernaut Cavalry? Hell yeah.
Yeah,
oh
they
my
do.
god. Oh, I don't need to see this. Oh, I don't need to see this.
Oh fuck, these are so good.
Oh no.
Oh, look at that helmet.
Bad.
Oh god, I really don't need to see this. Oh my
Holy
god.
shit.
Holy fuck.
Holy shit. Oh, those are so good.
Oh
Holy shit.
no. Oh man, I'm gonna be building a World Eaters army.
A new hero. Is hero the right model? Model. For the
He's got a
World
chainsword
Eaters.
horn.
The Lord Invocatus. A incredible Khorne Berserker champion riding a demonically possessed lump of angry metal.
Yeah, this guy is pretty much just a wrecking ball of pain. So he is Lord Invocatus is a name we might have heard before. If you've read every inch of your current Warhammer 40,000 lore, you've heard the name pop up a couple of times in references to planets that have been destroyed, maybe in previous Chaos Space Marine codexes, that sort of thing. But we haven't seen a model like this for a long time.
Mark
This
asking
is
where
a,
his guard tanks are.
Khorne champion who's
His what
been
tanks?
blessed by
Guard.
Khorne with
Who
a
knows?
Juggernaut.
I don't know.
And just
They
because his
they
Juggernaut
said there
wasn't
might be
quite
another
violent
Imperial
enough,
Guard
he's
reveal.
put
It
a
might be
chainsaw
the
on
Dorn
front of the
tank.
Juggernaut.
They said they've only shown about half of the new
Absolutely
guard
sure
stuff.
that if he hits something, it's definitely getting carved in half. The Juggernaut itself is like full of momentum and power. It looks very cool. We've seen similar miniatures recently for Age of Sigmar and for Demons, but that Juggernaut arguably is even more kind of armored and spiky than some of those ones. The Chaos Lord himself on the back is like every inch cornate, right? So he's like very, very spiky. There's kind of teeth and skulls, and the helmet
he's got
itself is
teeth
a massive
toes.
symbol of Khorne. The axe is pretty hefty.
When even your
It
kicks
looks like he's going
need
to
a
make a
little
mess
bite,
of pretty much anything he hits, doesn't he?
Yeah, a lot of people in the chat have been pointing out that he in some ways seems a little bit familiar, like reminiscent of a model from yesterday. And of course,
Oh, that's so good.
it's a sort of a retreading of a very classic Warhammer 40,000.
He's
Chaos
so
Marine.
angry.
And just, I guess, shows how
That
far
old
they've come.
model is
My favourite thing about
adorable.
The new model is just that even his
That thing
build
just
chapter
became
of
impossible to
this guy
find
is,
on eBay.
Yeah.
Like,
I think I had that
rage
original.
personified.
I've got the original one somewhere. I think I tried to make it into a chariot one day and messed it up.
So one of my friends did. This was a regular that and Abaddon were regular sort of opponents that my orcs had to face in second edition.
He was pretty good, I seem to
It
recall.
was horrible.
Yeah.
The way combat worked in second edition, anybody in the chat will know, is that I had 2 units of 40 grots, and as long as they didn't break, you had to kill everyone individually. There was no like running away as a group,
Yep.
and that meant that this guy might fight 5 combats a turn, and then it was very funny. Anyway, but it would take hours.
Yeah, so a few other things to say about this miniature. It does have some build options. We're not going to show all of the build options today, but there's some other stuff you can do with this kit. If you've had the new Demon Codex in your hands, you'll know that you can mix in some Chaos Demons in with your World Eaters when that Codex drops. So this guy would look very cool at the head of a big charge of Blood Crushers or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
It would look very, very cool. That's kind of his jam, right? That's where he sits, is like leading the faster demonic
sword
charges
horn.
of World Eaters. It's not all about running at people with a chainsaw. Sometimes it's about getting on something that's running at people with a chainsaw. That's the World Eaters tactics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, these world
And
eaters are
I
going to
think
make me
that
spend
is
money.
a good place to sort of bring it back to us and start to sum up. We've been with you for about an hour, and we are, when we go offline here now, we're going to go online. Raf is telling me live at one of the Warhammer 40,000 tournaments taking place somewhere in America, but
Chicago.
there we go.
Yeah.
So right now in Chicago, people are getting ready to roll dice and play some games of Warhammer 40,000, and we'll hand over to our commentary team over there. If you want to hang around, watch some Warhammer, paint some models, I can think of no better way to spend your day/morning/evening.
If you're watching the stream, good odds that you like Warhammer 40,000. So
I guess
there
that's
is a
it for
good
the
chance of
reveals.
that.
It might be. They're going to do a quick recap. They
Yes.
might
So,
have one more treat in
where
here. I
have
don't
we
know.
gone? First of all, this has been a lovely celebration of Warhammer Day, and it's been great to have you all with us. We have reminisced.
I guess
about
they
all
weren't
of the
really
glorious
gonna show
things,
anything
all
related
the
to all the
editions
retro
over
stuff
the
like everybody thought they were.
history of this excellent.
They're just
They
reminiscing.
were just reminiscing.
love.
Yeah.
And that's
we've
fine.
unveiled the Acadia Stands Army.
Unacceptable!
Set of new Astra militarum models coming very soon, it's like sort of the spearhead for the new Astra militarum range. Arcs of Omen, the next big thing in the lore and narrative of Warhammer 40,000, as Abaddon leads his sort of dastardly mission to sort of throw the Imperium into turmoil. Boarding actions, so you can recreate those events and battles and fight in the bowels of Space Hulks and battle cruisers and take your battles to the stars.
Be a real
The Shadow
bow
Vault's the
tool.
next set for Kill Team with the Kazakin and the Hierotek Circle, and obviously the new Lord Invocatus. It has been quite the time.
it's been fun. It's been nice talking about Warhammer 40,000's 35 years.
I agree. What are you most excited about coming up?
Ooh, I mean, I think I'm quite excited about the next Kill Team box. Actually, I think
yeah.
I'm really enjoying Kill Team at the moment. I've got some Corsairs on my table right now, and I think I'll get some games with them in, and then on to Kaiserkin after that.
That seems fair. I'm weirdly excited about the artillery pieces for the Cadian army.
Yeah, those artillery
I'm gonna
pieces look
Look
cool.
at the possibility of like just an artillery company. and see
Those
if
are
I can
gonna
bombard
go
them.
really well in my
As
guard
soon as
army.
the enemy lay their hands
They
on
said that
them.
there were
Great
2 in the
first turn.
boxes.
A few
Is that
couple of
right?
volleys of
First
fire.
turn, I think.
2 in the starter box.
So, what remains is for us to thank you all for coming and joining us from all the places of the world that you have. Thank Raf, who has pressed all the buttons and made the stream work. Notley for running the moderation. Eddie for knowing all the answers to all the difficult questions. Whoever told me the base sizes, and most importantly, all of you for making this Warhammer Day, Warhammer 40,000 preview online something special. We're going to leave you with a little cheeky tease. So, now until next time, see you again soon.
Dark Mechanicum.
Excuse me, is that Dark Mechanicum?
That's Dark Mechanicum.
Are you
all
s-
day, baby.
Are you kidding me?
Is that fuck? What's his name? It starts with an H.
Oh, from that One Horse Heresy book, right?
From multiple, but like the head Mechanicum guy who turned to Horus.
Yeah.
Or I can't remember his name.
Well,
Why-
today Matt plays Night Lords and Ryan plays Tau.
Hell yeah.
I've actually played Tau. I don't know if Matt's ever played Night Lords.
You know what? They can't be that hard to pilot around. They're like a worse Death Guard, right?
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it looks like that's the stream. Nah, thank you all for being here and for watching with us.
Been an amazing time, y'all.
Really cool reveals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things that are going to tempt me to spend an irresponsible amount of money on plastic.
So you're. Oh, go ahead.
I know I'm gonna get some World Eaters going.
There you go.
I'm awful tempted by all the new guard stuff, but I don't know if I'm gonna pull the trigger on it. But it's tempting.
Yeah. I have some guard already started, so I'm probably going to fall down that hole and then trip and fall into the World Eater hole on the way.
I keep buying the kill team boxes, and so I keep acquiring guard. So I have either 10 or 20 of the what do you call it? The Krieg guys, and then I've got the Navis dudes, and I kind of want to buy this expansion too to add to the terrain set for the Arcs of Omen. So I might end up with a shocking amount of guard shit.
And the way they're talking with how the guard's going to work, we have mixed regiments. You could just smash them all together.
Smash them
Mixed
back.
regiments, and yet they only showed Cadians.
Yeah.
Oh well, you know. No, there's a lot in there to be excited about. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. I think with that, we're gonna go ahead and call it a day. Thank you
All
guys for tuning in.
All right. Thanks for
Take
joining
it
us,
easy.
y'all. See you in the next one.